Hello everyone, Dr. Alan Mandell here. Welcome back to my channel, Science of Healing. If you're tired of waking up 2, 3, even 4 times a night just to urinate, you're not alone. And no, this is not just normal aging that you have to accept. Today, I want to share 5 simple, safe exercises that many seniors can try to help reduce nighttime urination, improve bladder control, and finally get deeper, uninterrupted sleep. These movements work by strengthening the pelvic floor, calming the nervous system, and improving communication between your bladder and brain, something that often weakens with age. Let's briefly understand what's happening first. As we get older, the muscles that support the bladder and prostate weaken, nerve signaling slows down, blood flow to the pelvic region decreases, and stress hormones like cortisol stay elevated at night, telling your bladder it's time to empty even when it's not full. Medication may help symptoms, but movement retrains function. Now let's go step by step. First exercise, diaphragmatic breathing. This may sound simple, but it's powerful. Sit or lie down comfortably. Place one hand on your chest and one on your belly. Slowly inhale through your nose, allowing your belly to rise. Exhale gently through your mouth, letting the belly fall. Do this for 5 minutes before bed. For millions of seniors around the world, the night follows the same cruel pattern. You fall asleep hoping this time will be different, hoping your body will finally let you rest. And then, without warning, your eyes snap open. Pressure, urgency, that familiar panic. You swing your legs off the bed and make the slow walk to the bathroom again. By morning, you're exhausted, irritable, foggy, and quietly wondering if this is just what aging looks like now. But here's the truth most people are never told. Waking up at night to urinate is not simply getting old. It's a signal, a warning, and in many cases it's reversible. Science shows that the bladder itself is rarely the real problem. In fact, studies published in urology and gerontology journals reveal that the bladder often sends urgency signals when it is only partially full. That means your body is waking you up not because it must, but because communication inside your nervous system has broken down. Aging does not cause this breakdown automatically. Inactivity does. Chronic stress does. Poor circulation does, and weakened support muscles do. When these systems decline, the bladder becomes hypersensitive, reacting to even small amounts of urine as if it were an emergency. One of the most overlooked causes is the nervous system. As we age, the connection between the brain and bladder becomes less efficient. Research from neuroscience institutes shows that reduced parasympathetic activity, the part of the nervous system responsible for calm and restoration, keeps the bladder in a constant state of alert. At night, instead of relaxing, it tightens. Instead of storing urine, it demands release. This is why anxiety, shallow breathing, and chronic stress dramatically increase nighttime urination, even in people with perfectly healthy kidneys. Then there is the pelvic floor, a group of muscles most people never think about until something goes wrong. These muscles act like a hammock, supporting the bladder and signaling when it's truly time to empty. Studies show that after the age of 60, pelvic floor strength can decline by more than 40% if not actively maintained. When these muscles weaken, the bladder loses its sense of stability. It begins to misfire, sending urgent messages even when it shouldn't. This is not a disease. It is a mechanical failure caused by disuse. Blood flow plays another silent role. As circulation to the pelvis decreases, oxygen delivery drops and inflammation rises. Medical imaging studies reveal that reduced blood flow irritates bladder tissue, making it more sensitive to stretch and pressure. This means less urine triggers more urgency. At night, when blood redistributes from the legs back into the bloodstream, excess fluid reaches the kidneys, increasing urine production while you sleep. The result is predictable, disruptive, and exhausting. What makes this especially tragic is that many seniors are told this is normal, that it's just part of life now. But research tells a very different story. In controlled studies, older adults who improved muscle strength, circulation, and nervous system balance reduced nighttime urination by up to 50% without medication. not by suppressing symptoms, but by restoring function. The body remembers how to regulate itself when given the right signals. Medication, while sometimes necessary, often masks the problem rather than solving it. Many bladder drugs work by dulling nerve signals, which can lead to side effects like dry mouth, constipation, confusion, and increased fall risk. Large population studies have even linked long-term use of certain bladder medications to cognitive decline. Yet few patients are told there is another option, one that works with the body instead of against it. The most shocking fact of all is this: your bladder is designed to hold urine for hours at a time, even in old age. Autopsy and imaging studies show that bladder capacity does not significantly shrink with age. What changes is control. The system that decides when to go becomes overly sensitive, like a smoke alarm that goes off when you make toast. Fix the sensitivity, and the false alarms stop. Sleep deprivation caused by nighttime urination has consequences far beyond fatigue. Research from Sleep Medicine Journal shows that fragmented sleep increases the risk of heart disease, diabetes, depression, memory loss, and even early mortality. Seniors who wake up 3 or more times a night have significantly higher rates of falls, fractures, and hospitalizations. This is not a minor inconvenience. It is a serious health issue hiding in plain sight. And yet, the solution is often simple, gentle, and within reach. Movement retrains the nervous system. Breathing calms urgency signals. Strength restores support. Circulation reduces irritation. When these systems work together, the bladder relaxes. The brain stops panicking. The night becomes quiet again. This is why people who begin addressing the root causes often notice changes within weeks. Fewer trips, longer stretches of sleep, a sense of control returning. Not because they forced the bladder to obey, but because they reminded the body how to function the way it was designed to. Aging does not mean surrendering your nights to the bathroom. It does not mean accepting exhaustion as your new normal. And it certainly does not mean your body has betrayed you. Your body is communicating. It's asking for support, movement, and balance, not resignation. When you understand that nighttime urination is a functional issue, not a life sentence, everything changes. Hope returns, power returns, and sleep, real restorative sleep, stops feeling like a memory and starts feeling possible again. Your body has not forgotten how to heal. It's been waiting for you to listen. Every time you feel that sudden urge to urinate at night, what you are really experiencing is a misfiring conversation between your brain and your bladder. It feels physical, urgent, unavoidable, but deep inside, it is neurological, and science now confirms something remarkable. This communication can be retrained, not with force, not with medication, but with gentle, deliberate movement repeated daily until the body remembers what it once knew. Your bladder does not act on its own. It waits for instructions from the brain. Studies in neurourology show that the bladder fills quietly for hours, sending low-level signals that are meant to be ignored until a critical threshold is reached. In healthy function, the brain filters these signals and says, "Not yet." But in many seniors, that filter weakens. The result is urgency without necessity. Motion retrains that filter. One of the most powerful discoveries in recent years is the role of the nervous system's rest and digest pathway, known as the parasympathetic system. Research from Harvard and Stanford has shown that slow, controlled movement combined with deep breathing activates this system more effectively than medication. When this pathway is active, bladder muscle tension decreases, urgency signals quiet down, and storage capacity improves. This is why people who practice intentional movement often report fewer nighttime bathroom trips within weeks, not months. Pelvic floor training is a perfect example of how movement rewires communication. These muscles are packed with sensory receptors that constantly send feedback to the brain. When they are weak or inactive, the brain interprets this as instability and responds by triggering urgency early. Clinical trials have shown that consistent pelvic floor activation increases inhibitory nerve signaling to the bladder, essentially telling it to calm down and wait. This is not strengthening for appearance, it is strengthening for neurological control. But it doesn't stop there. Hip mobility exercises, often dismissed as simple stretching, play a crucial role. The nerves that control bladder function pass directly through the hip and pelvic region. When these tissues become tight and immobile, nerve signaling becomes distorted. Imaging studies show that restricted hip movement reduces nerve conduction speed. Gentle hip opening restores that flow, sharpening the message between bladder and brain. Less confusion means fewer false alarms. Circulation is another silent hero in this process. Every movement you make pumps blood and lymph through the lower body. This matters because stagnant fluid leads to inflammation, and inflammation sensitizes bladder nerves. Research in vascular medicine has demonstrated that improved lower body circulation reduces nocturnal urine production by helping the kidneys regulate fluid earlier in the day. Simple calf and heel movements can shift this entire pattern, quietly reducing nighttime urgency without a single pill. Then there is the spine. The spinal cord is the highway through which bladder signals travel. Age-related stiffness in the spine compresses nerve pathways, delaying and distorting messages. Gentle spinal flexion and extension have been shown to improve nerve transmission speed and accuracy. Neurological studies confirm that even mild daily spinal movement increases proprioceptive feedback to the brain, improving bladder timing and control. What makes this so powerful is that the brain is plastic, even in old age. For decades, scientists believed neuroplasticity declined sharply after midlife. That belief is now obsolete. Modern research shows that seniors retain significant capacity for neural rewiring, especially when movement is slow, mindful, and repetitive. Every intentional movement is a signal to the brain that says, pay attention, relearn this. Over time, those signals stack, creating new patterns of control. This is why medication often fails long-term. Drugs suppress signals. Movement reshapes them. One numbs communication, the other restores it. In fact, comparative studies have found that seniors who combined movement-based bladder retraining with breathing exercises outperformed medication-only groups in both symptom reduction and quality of life scores with zero side effects. There is also an emotional component that cannot be ignored. Chronic urgency creates fear. Fear heightens alertness. Alertness increases urgency. It becomes a vicious loop. Movement breaks that loop. When you move intentionally, the brain shifts out of threat mode. Stress hormones like cortisol drop. The bladder, no longer under constant surveillance, relaxes. This is not psychological. It is measurable. Salivary cortisol studies confirm significant reductions after structured daily movement routines. Perhaps the most shocking fact is this: the bladder learns from repetition. If you rush to the bathroom at the first sensation every night, you train the bladder to signal earlier and earlier. But when movement and nervous system retraining are introduced, the threshold resets. The bladder relearns patience. Urodynamic studies show increased bladder capacity after weeks of neuromuscular retraining, even in adults over 75. This is not about pushing through discomfort, it is about teaching the body safety. Gentle movement says to the nervous system, you are supported, you are stable, you can wait. And the bladder listens. Over time, something remarkable happens. The urgency fades, the signals slow down, night becomes quieter, sleep stretches longer, and with better sleep comes sharper memory, stronger immunity, better balance, and a reduced risk of falls and chronic disease. One change ripples through the entire body. This is why retraining bladder-brain communication is not just about fewer bathroom trips. It is about reclaiming control. It is about restoring trust between your body and your mind. It is about reminding your nervous system that it does not need to panic in the dark. Your body is not broken. It is adaptable. And with the right movements, repeated gently and consistently, it can relearn what it once did naturally, how to let you sleep through the night in peace. Consistency is the invisible force that turns simple actions into life-changing results, and nowhere is this more powerful than in the battle against nighttime urination. Most people try something once or twice, feel nothing dramatic, and quietly give up. But the human body does not respond to effort the way we expect. It responds to repetition. Science shows that the nervous system only rewires itself after receiving the same signal again and again, calmly, predictably, without panic. And when that rewiring happens, something extraordinary follows. Control returns. Sleep researchers have discovered that the body makes its deepest repairs only during uninterrupted sleep cycles. When those cycles are broken repeatedly by nighttime bathroom trips, healing slows dramatically. Growth hormone release drops, tissue repair weakens, inflammation rises, memory consolidation fails. One large study found that seniors who wake up more than twice per night have measurably higher levels of inflammatory markers linked to heart disease, arthritis, and cognitive decline. The problem is not just lost sleep, it is lost recovery. Here is what most people don't realize. When you practice gentle bladder supporting movements consistently, you are not just fixing a symptom. You are restoring sleep architecture itself. Neurological research shows that once the bladder stops sending false urgency signals, the brain spends more time in deep, slow-wave sleep and REM sleep. These are the stages where the brain clears toxic waste, strengthens memory, and stabilizes mood. Better bladder control quietly unlocks better brain health. Energy returns next. Chronic nighttime waking drains the nervous system, leaving seniors fatigued before the day even begins. Studies from geriatric medicine journals show that fragmented sleep reduces mitochondrial efficiency, meaning your cells literally produce less energy. But when sleep becomes continuous again, cellular energy production rebounds. People report waking up clearer, steadier, and stronger, not because they slept longer, but because they slept deeper. Consistency also protects the heart. Each nighttime awakening spikes blood pressure and heart rate. Cardiologists have documented that repeated nocturnal awakenings place extra strain on the cardiovascular system, increasing the risk of hypertension and arrhythmias. When nighttime urination decreases, those stress spikes disappear. The heart finally rests. Over time, resting blood pressure improves without medication changes. That is the power of uninterrupted nights. Balance and mobility improve as well. Seniors who wake frequently at night face a significantly higher risk of falls, especially when moving through dark rooms half asleep. One study found that reducing nighttime bathroom trips by even one per night lowered fall risk by nearly 30%. Fewer trips mean fewer chances to stumble. Better sleep also sharpens reflexes and coordination during the day, further reducing injury risk. What makes consistency so effective is that it works quietly in the background. You do not feel dramatic changes on day one. Instead, the nervous system slowly lowers its guard. The bladder learns that urgency does not equal danger. Muscles regain tone. Circulation improves. And because this happens gradually, the body accepts it as normal rather than resisting it. This is why gentle daily practices outperform aggressive short-term efforts every time. There is also a powerful psychological shift that occurs. Chronic nighttime urination trains the brain to anticipate failure. You go to bed expecting to wake up. That expectation alone increases alertness and urgency. Consistent practice breaks this mental conditioning. As nights improve, confidence returns, anxiety fades, and the brain stops scanning the body for problems. This reduction in vigilance further quiets the bladder, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of improvement. Large population studies confirm this effect. Seniors who followed consistent non-pharmacological bladder retraining programs reported not only fewer nighttime awakenings, but also improved mood, reduced depression scores, and higher overall life satisfaction. Sleep quality influences emotional health more than almost any other factor. Restore sleep, and the mind follows. Perhaps the most overlooked benefit is longevity. Chronic sleep disruption has been linked to increased mortality risk independent of other health conditions. Researchers believe this is due to cumulative stress on the immune, metabolic, and cardiovascular systems. By restoring sleep through consistent daily habits, you are not just improving comfort, you are extending healthy years. What's remarkable is how little time this requires. Studies show that even 10 to 15 minutes of targeted daily movement and breathing can trigger measurable changes in bladder control and sleep quality within weeks. The key is not intensity, it is reliability. The body thrives on signals it can trust. Medication may offer temporary relief, but consistency offers transformation. Drugs wear off, habits compound. Each day you practice, you deposit a small investment into your nervous system. Over time, the returns become undeniable. Fewer awakenings, longer sleep stretches, clearer mornings, stronger days. And then something deeper happens. You stop planning your life around bathrooms. You stop fearing bedtime. You stop measuring nights by how many times you woke up. Sleep becomes what it was meant to be: restorative, protective, renewing. This is not about perfection. Missing a day does not erase progress. What matters is returning again and again. The nervous system responds to patience, the bladder responds to reassurance, and the body responds to belief backed by action. When seniors commit to consistency, they often discover that what they thought was lost forever was simply dormant. Control, energy, confidence, sleep. These are not luxuries. They are biological functions waiting to be restored. Consistency does not shout, it whispers, but if you listen to it long enough, it can give you back your nights, and with them, your days.